Well, hello, that's me again. It's April 10, Sunday, so this is my weekend video, and before I start talking, I want to give you and read out to you basically some interesting historical facts. It's about obviously man. Nobody doubts his combat merits and military merits, Georgy Konstantinovich Zhukov. And let me read you some things about him. Zhukov was a Stavka coordinator at the Battle of Kursk in July 1943. Also, from February 1944, Zhukov coordinated the actions of the 1st Ukrainian and 2nd Ukrainian fronts, fronts being the Russian term for the army groups. On March 1st, Zhukov was appointed the commander of the 1st Ukrainian front until early May, following the ambush of Nikolai Vatutin, its commander, by the Ukrainian insurgent army near Ostrog, which is, by the way, the Ukrainian Nazis. During the Soviet offensive Operation Bagration, Zhukov coordinated the 1st Belarusian and 2nd Belarusian fronts. Later, the 1st Ukrainian front as well. On 23 August, Zhukov was sent to the 3rd Ukrainian front to prepare for advance into Bulgaria. In the end, Zhukov commanded a couple of other fronts, including the 1st Belarusian front. And basically, throughout his life, he commanded so many formations that it's difficult to really follow everything he did. And yeah, we can of course recall his commanding Red Army at the Khalkhin Gol in late 30s. But the point is, why I bring this, is the widely circulating right now information by primarily Western media, and supported by such scumbags as Moscow Times, which is the pro-Western, basically foreign agent, essentially, in Russia. The fact that, Russians started, just removed the commander of the Ukrainian operation and, moved somebody else, in his new position. You know what? First, there is no official confirmation of that, but even if this would have happened, and say it's a fact, obviously it has nothing to do with the issue of that Russia quote-unquote losing the operation, but it may have to do merely with the change of one command specializing in some type of operation with another, as it was in Syria, for example. But of course, because it's a Western propaganda and we're already reaching the absolutely grotesque scale of it, they want to pretend and portray any kind of Russian movements as the military or political failure. Well, that's what they do, especially after glorious victories in Afghanistan, for example, and, basically humiliation elsewhere for the United States. But it is what it is. It's propaganda. And my talk today is dedicated primarily to countering this. And I want to also get everybody to this very peculiar situation around Mariupol, and again, a lot of lie, which is, being, it revolves around it, including Jake Sullivan saying that the weapons, American weapons still get into Mariupol. I doubt it, but again, he's political scientist and it's not real education, the same as international relations, not education, the United States and West in general, because it prepares basically frauds, people who have no real skills on anything. But the point is, Mariupol obviously is blocked, and as Ramzan Kadyrov, who knows a little bit more than Jake Sullivan about the real war, he commented that basically the serious combat operations have wrapped up, and it's just a matter of Azovstal plant, which is blocked. And here's this very funny, interesting situation. Different sources, including official Russian sources, where the Ministry of Defense of Russia is open, it's just basically, it's recorded, and other sources, which are reputable, say that there are up to 300 cadre NATO officers Russian Ministry of Defense says there are 6 main languages, foreign languages, which are being spoken to. We can safely assume there are English and French, that's for sure. There could be Turkish language, I don't know about that, but certainly English and French, and some other languages. And even this almost comedic, humorous situation with the Bulgarian special forces there confirms that somebody desperately tries to extricate some people from this Azov-style place, and this situation goes on and on and on. And of course, as already stated before, I spoke about this several days ago, and our French Lachmonter, he has his own sources, and you can read about in my blog, that some of those military advisors, quote unquote, have been already taken prisoners, and I'm sure more will be taken. But there are also situations being speculated, including by reputable Russian sources, that all those NATO officers who are now blocked in Azovstal, they will be executed by the primarily Nazi formation. There are around 2,000 left of them there. So, because in order for them not to end up in hands of Russian forces, because you might understand it's going to be a political disaster, and it already is actually for anybody who really have the half brain, you know, in their mind, but it is in their head, I'm sorry. And the issue here is that United States is now basically fixed in the position, and it's recorded, and this position will be developed, and it will be presented, as I already stated previously, on the starting war crimes tribunal, as which will be in June. The proceedings will start in June, and it will be portrayed, not portrayed, that's what it is, supporting Nazi forces in Ukraine. And as you might understand, that will not sit well with many people, including very many Americans. Granted that they will have any access to this information, but I think so it's fairly difficult to really block it in the 21st century, even on such totalitarian communities as, you know, Facebook or what have you, Twitter. I don't know, Twitter is totalitarian totally. That's why I don't have any social media, social networks accounts, and that's the reason. I don't want to be, you know, exposing my thoughts in a very short and very unreadable manner, and I will be blocked anyway, so pretty fast. So that's what we have here, and of course this issue is not going anywhere, and even the bodies, the corpses of those people, when properly identified, they will create a lot of political headache. I think so also, not only just for the United States or UK, which is, if you see people, you know, being taken as hostages, used as, you know, human shields, children being killed, women being raped, and chemical weapons used. So yeah, you can expect UK and US people there, you know, doing that thing, you know, or helping to arrange that thing. But of course, the issue is that even France, we don't know how France is involved, but there were already a number of the insignias and paraphernalia from the French Foreign Legion, and evidently some French, other French pieces of evidence which have been collected. So we're looking at the serious NATO involvement by the human element on the ground, and that doesn't sit well, obviously, with NATO itself. And that is why Macron calls Putin like there is, you know, he's calling like he's in the office, you know, all the time and talking to Putin, whatever he talks about. I don't know. Russia doesn't really release those, the content of the real content of those negotiations or conversations. And now we have the Austrian Chancellor going to Moscow tomorrow. And again, talking about this operation. There is a lot of worry in NATO about this. And judging by the also level of propaganda, which now is simply grotesque, which Western media are using now, especially following the obviously Ukrainian narrative on the matter, such as that Ukraine is about to, you know, win and Russia is about to get defeated in Ukraine, you begin to, not to begin to feel, I sense it from pretty much from the very beginning, that there is a huge degree of desperation on their part, and it explains, this desperation could be explained primarily by the fact that at this stage, as even Dimwit Klitschko, the mayor of Kiev, stated today, or yesterday, depends on timeline, you know, I mean the day or night in Europe, that he is afraid that Russians will take Kiev in 2 days, you know, if something happens, you know. I mean, can Russia take Kiev in 2 days? No, I don't think so. Russia can take the Kiev in 2 days because it's a huge operation and it's a huge city. It's the 3.5 million population city, so it's not that simple. But Klitschko actually betrayed here the real fear, because obviously this famous, I mean, quote unquote, which is incredible BS, of Russia being defeated by VSU near Kiev, which never happened, but okay, I mean, in the West, it, you know, whatever media says, that means it happened. But the fact that Russia still retains a significant forces near Kiev, thus tying together a very significant and probably last serious combat-capable VSU grouping, and of course Russia has some troops in Belarus, which means literally several hours of march towards Kiev, and then basically once Ukraine decides to remove what's left of its combat-capable VSU units or formations and try to move them towards Donbass and Kharkov, where the main battle starts right now, Kiev will be indeed assaulted and probably will be taken. It's not going to be 2 days, but it certainly will be much easier to take it with those troops being absent around it and being thrown into the grinder in the Donbass and this cauldron which is formed right now. Then, of course, if they would stay there and Russians decided to take it, you know, head on. So that's the basic strategy. That's the basic operational art. It doesn't require any special, you know, fundamental knowledge. It's kind of self-evident. But of course, Mariupol already released quite a bit of forces, and they are moving, if not already, in the position to start squeezing the cauldron in the eastern Ukraine, which is in Donbass, and where the main grouping of the VSU is located now, is blocked, and it's gonna be annihilated. And going back to this propaganda that, oh, Russians changed the commander. First, we don't know this, and even if they did, yeah, I can totally foresee it. You know, Zhukov have been thrown around and commanded so many huge strategic formations in his life during the World War II or Great Patriotic War. That's no surprise. Sometimes people, military people and generals with a specific set of skills, some of the in exploitation of the gaps and some in the very fast maneuver warfare, others in taking cities, you know. So yeah, you might, you know, get people who will say, okay, why don't we get this commander now in charge of the reduction of this cauldron in Donbass, and that would be totally reasonable. In fact, it has nothing to do with you know, winning or losing, although, you know, at this stage I am simply tired repeating it, that yeah, those idiots, including those former generals or retired American generals, who are obviously butthurt and so losers, who continue to spew this sophomoric crap about war in Ukraine, they have to learn by now that pretty much VSU as a maneuverable and modern force is over. It's done. What you have a large human resources, so to speak, large formations, large personnel, you know, clusters, so to speak, with some weapons, yeah, primarily artillery, MLRS, very little in terms of tanks anymore, or real any kind of mobile elements, being absolutely pinned down. And yeah, the reduction has started, and there were already reports that the increase of the density of the fire there, and they will be eventually simply, mix with the ground there, and that will be it. So, but yeah, they continue to talk about how Russians lose all the time, so how VSU is just, having those victories strong as the pearls, on this beautiful, what have you, decoration of their incredible military history. I'm being facetious, of course, and but people already like Jimmy Dore already is using, and he speaks about it openly, how basically NBC and all the US media admitted that basically, oh yeah, this is just propaganda. All this intel is basically bullshit. Well, yeah, it's all made up. I mean, and fact is, that's what the thing which they don't understand. The more they make things up, be that Mr. Keane, be that Petraeus, or be that Ben Hodges, about who I wrote today, the piece in my blog. I mean, they don't understand. They ruined their already really weak reputation. Those people never won anything. They got their asses kicked in Afghanistan and Iraq, or what have you, and they still sit there and, deliver all those remarks about how VSU is about to win, Russians, and yeah, VSU is already on the way to capture Moscow, obviously. So, but they don't understand that even doing this, even promoting this propaganda, being the conduits, or conductors of this propaganda, they lose the rest, what remain of their reputation. American generals are basically the same as American military, is not taken that seriously, except for their obviously nuclear force and, doing stupid things. They're not taken that seriously. Everybody knows in Russia, for example, you want to fight, yeah, just come and fight us, So that's how what it came down to. But those people continue to deliver this propaganda, deliver those lies, and now the mainstream media in the United States, I mean, they admit that, yeah, we lie, we just fight Russians with lies. Sure, good luck. So next thing we know, the Ukrainians are hoisting their flag over Kremlin, and so what can I say? This is not the first time. Remember weapons of mass destruction? Remember Skripals? Remember the Russian collusion? It's a lie non-stop. That was in the making for the last 20 years. And those lies were designed to also cover the catastrophic and humiliating defeat in Afghanistan. You can always look up the Washington Post Afghan papers, which basically disclosed the utter military incompetence of American top brass and utter incompetence and corruption of the American diplomacy and, foreign policy establishment. It's all there. Just go to Washington Post. Just look up those things. It's ridiculous. It's the level of the running of the country, which some third world countries do a better job than in the United States. And that's what is this all being driven with, not just by the necessity to conduct the cold, or if you wish, semi-hot war against Russia and Russians now, but it is always a butthurt and sore losers. It's what it is. It is the issue of the complex of inferiority. And I constantly am on the record that compare military histories and military accomplishments. There is no comparison. Well, Russia is a much older country than the United States, and Russia defeated every single best Western power at that given point of time on the battlefield. Simple as that. Be that Teutonic Knights, be that Mongol Tatars from the other side of the continent, be that obviously Swedes at some point of time, and of course Napoleon, and then we have the Germans and Wehrmacht and pretty much combined forces of Europe, which Napoleon army, Grande Armée, it was the half French, the rest of it was Europe, from Poles to what have you. So, and it's just the way it is. It was always happening with Russia, and the Russians definitely developed the methods and the approaches to designing their doctrines and strategies, and of course technological part of it, which are weapons and tactics of their use. That, yeah, if you want to take a look and find anything comparable in human history, good luck with that. I'm talking about obviously last millennium, so more than 1,000 years. And that's what doesn't give them, any kind of rest to those people. And they need to lie. They need to use this propaganda. And finally, they begin to admit that it is propaganda. And as they say, it's not always based on solid intelligence. Well, in other words, it's based completely on bullshit, which is being passed under the stamp of U.S. so-called intelligence community. I don't know what kind of intelligence is that. So, and that's what I needed to talk to you about today, because obviously this will continue, and you can continue to expect things which already have been debunked. The Bucha massacre have been debunked. Even Europeans, those lapdogs, and even this drunkard Borrell, he started to asking Zelensky a question about, can you confirm that Ukraine wasn't involved in Bucha? Well, it was. I mean, that's their modus operandi. That's MI6. It's what they do. I mean, people from general staff in Russia already on record, those who served that. Basically, this whole defense in Mariupol, for example, which uses their civilians as the main factor of the defenses. It's purely Western thing. It's a NATO thing. And how about that, which is again confirmed, and these are many evidence. This already recorded there. Just those Nazi people, they just come in, take children from their parents and keep them with them at the front line. They also ask those parents to bring them water for their children, obviously doing so they bring it for them. So, and of course the methods of execution of POWs and things like that, it's all over. It's such a classic throwback to the World War II and Nazi atrocities. I mean, that's what NATO and combined West support. And they cannot do anything about this anymore, because it is recorded, it is inscribed, and the evidence will be presented, and everybody will see it again, except for those who do not have even half brain in their head. And that's a serious issue. And that brings us to the last kind of conclusion point, which I wanted to talk about today, that people sometimes don't understand. The breakup between Russia and the West is huge. It's for real. It's not the joke. Oh, we play with some sanctions and then things calm down. They will not calm down. It's over. And that's why Russians gave up on Europe, which will be absolutely completely stripped of its industries and basically real economy. And Europeans will be just as poor as the third world. They will have some, remnants of their, tourist infrastructure, maybe some industries, and of course service industries like hotels, touristy things, So, but United States is going to strip from that, and Russians know this. And what is most important, Russians said, you know what, you are on your way. Plus, now, if you look at the videos, many videos, you can find them on YouTube, of Russian people from Oriol, from Kursk regions, waving Russian troops off to the front lines. Take a hint. This war has an enormous support among Russians, and that's what really matters in the end, because in this case, Western propaganda means absolutely nothing. So I wanted to talk about this a little bit today, and as always, those who can afford, please support me on the Patreon and subscribe and just watch my videos, and I'll talk to you next week, guys. Have a nice rest of your weekend. Bye bye.